The late afternoon sun stretched long shadows across the cracked asphalt of a quiet roadside diner just off Highway 40. The air smelled of sizzling burgers and salty fries drifting through the open windows, blending with the warm breath of summer. Inside, most booths were taken by families, kids sipping sodas, parents talking softly, silverware clinking against plates. Everything felt easy, ordinary, like one of those small-town places where time never hurries and nothing surprising ever happens. But that peace didn't last. It started as a faint rumble somewhere in the distance, low, steady, and growing fast. Within seconds, the whole building seemed to vibrate from the sound. Forks stopped midair. Conversations froze. Every head turned toward the front windows just as 8 roaring motorcycles rolled into the lot. Their chrome catching the dying sunlight like fire. The roar outside grew louder, rolling through the air like a coming storm until even the glass windows rattled in their frames. I'd heard that sound before. Engines with power you could feel in your chest. It wasn't just noise, it was presence. Every bit of chatter inside died at once. Forks hovered halfway to mouths. A little girl froze with a French fry in her hand. All eyes turned toward the lot where those 8 bikes lined up, each one shining like polished steel under the last stretch of sunlight. The riders swung off their machines with the kind of easy confidence that only comes from years on the road. Black leather vests covered in patches and symbols said everything that needed saying. No one had to ask who they were. Hell's Angels. If you've ever believed that people can change, that the past doesn't lock you into who you are forever, then you'd have felt it too, that strange tension between fear and curiosity. Because the truth is, these guys carried stories inked into their skin, not just tattoos. They moved toward the diner doors slow and steady, their boots thudding heavy on the pavement. You could feel their presence before they even stepped inside. Weathered faces framed by gray-streaked hair and long beards, forearms etched with old ink and road dust. They looked like men who'd seen everything life could throw their way. The one in front caught my eye right away. Tall, broad shoulders, silver in his black hair, and the kind of calm that made everyone else step back a little. His name, I'd later learn, was Connor Ghost Riley, president of the Desert Riders chapter. The second those doors swung open, the air inside shifted. The easy hum of conversation vanished, replaced by the kind of silence you could almost taste. Parents pulled their kids a little closer. A young couple by the window stared down at their plates. Even the hostess, Linda, her name tag said, gripped the menus tighter, that polite smile trembling at the corners. But there was one person who wasn't scared. In the far corner, a boy, maybe 7 years old, sat with his grandmother, eyes wide with pure excitement instead of fear. His name was Tyler Chin, and he had that fearless curiosity only kids seem to have. While the rest of us sat frozen, that little boy looked like he'd just seen his heroes walk in. The bikers filled 2 booths in the back, moving with quiet discipline. Ghost sat facing the door. Old habit, I guessed. Scanning the room once before relaxing against the seat. Linda finally made her way over, hands shaking just enough to notice. "Welcome to Roadside Rest," she said, her voice steady but tight. "Can I start you gentlemen off with something to drink?" Ghost looked up, and something softened in his expression. "Coffee, black," he said, voice deep but gentle. "And whatever pie's fresh, We've been on the road 6 hours straight." The others followed his lead, ordering coffee, burgers, pie. Polite, calm. Nothing like what people expected from their leather and Apaches. And just like that, the fear in the room began to shift into something else. Confusion, maybe, or curiosity. These men weren't trouble. They were just tired travelers looking for a meal. Linda hurried off toward the counter, her shoes squeaking softly on the tile. The smell of coffee started to drift through the air again, and little by little, people tried to return to their meals. But the tension didn't leave. It just changed. The bikers weren't causing trouble, but their presence still filled every inch of the place. And that's when the kid made his move. Before his grandmother could react, the little boy slid out of the booth, his sneakers tapping the floor as he headed straight toward the table where Ghost sat. Mrs. Chen gasped, reaching out to grab him, but the boy was already halfway there, determined and fearless. She half stood, panic written all over her face, whispering his name like a prayer. Every biker at that table noticed him instantly. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. You could have heard a pin drop. Ghost turned his head, his sharp gaze locking on the small figure now standing beside the table. For a moment, the whole restaurant seemed to stop breathing. Tyler's chin tilted up, eyes bright with curiosity, completely unshaken by the man towering over him. His voice was clear and innocent when he finally spoke. "Hi, sir," he said, every word crisp in the silence. "My mom has a tattoo just like yours." The words landed like a hammer. Even I felt the air tighten. Ghost's expression froze, not angry, not startled exactly, but sharp, calculating. Around him, his brothers went utterly still. Mrs. Chen covered her mouth, her face draining of color. The place felt electric now, like everyone was waiting for something to happen, but no one knew what. Ghost set down his coffee slowly, his hand steady, but deliberate. His eyes moved from the boy's face to his own arm, where the tattoo showed clear under the sleeve, a flaming phoenix wrapped in chains, etched in deep black and crimson ink. You could tell it wasn't some random design. It meant something. He looked back at the kid. "Just like mine?" he asked, voice low but even. Tyler nodded with the certainty only a child could have. "Yes, sir. She's got a bird with fire and chains on her shoulder. She showed me once when I asked. She said it was from a long time ago, before I was born." The whole place went quiet again, but this time it wasn't fear. It was something deeper, like everyone could feel that this moment meant more than we understood. Ghost's jaw tightened, just a little, not enough for most to notice. But you could feel something change in the air. One of the bikers, a big guy with a scar slashing across his cheek, leaned forward like he was trying to read Ghost's thoughts. Another, younger, with a long beard, caught Ghost's eye and gave a small, uneasy nod. Mrs. Chen finally found her voice. "Tyler!" she hissed, her tone sharp with panic. "Come back here right now. I'm so sorry, sir. He doesn't understand." Ghost lifted one hand, a calm, simple gesture, and it froze her in place. His attention stayed on the boy. "What's your mother's name, son?" Tyler straightened proudly, happy to answer. "Her name's Lisa, Lisa Chen. Well, it used to be Lisa Martinez before she married my dad, but they're not together anymore." The second he said that, something heavy hit the room. It was like the whole diner exhaled at once, then went still again. Ghost's face, already serious, went blank, unreadable. But behind his eyes something flickered. Recognition, shock, pain. The man with the scar muttered a curse under his breath. The younger biker leaned back and shook his head slowly, a strange half-smile on his face, like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Lisa Martinez," Ghost repeated softly. His voice sounded different now, deeper, unsteady in a way I hadn't heard before. Not angry, more like someone who'd just seen a ghost from his own past. He studied Tyler's face then, really looking at him, his hair, his eyes, the curve of his cheek. "And where's your mom now, son?" Ghost asked, careful and calm. "She's at work," Tyler said matter-of-factly. "She works at the hospital. She's a nurse. Grandma watches me after school till Mom gets home." He pointed back toward Mrs. Chen, who still looked like she might faint any second. Ghost sat quiet for a long moment, his eyes distant. His brothers watched him closely, not daring to speak. Then Ghost motioned toward the empty space beside him. "Why don't you sit here for a bit, Tyler? I'd like to hear more about this tattoo of your mom's." Mrs. Chen opened her mouth to object, but Ghost's expression stopped her cold. There was no threat in it, just something deep, almost tender. The boy climbed into the booth without hesitation, his legs swinging above the floor. He looked up at Ghost like a kid sitting beside a hero. "It's really pretty," Tyler said earnestly. "Mom doesn't show it much. She keeps it covered for work. But I saw it once when she was getting ready, and she said it was from when she was young and wild, before she was a mom." Ghost leaned in, his tone softer now. "And what else did she tell you?" "She said she used to ride motorcycles with her friends. Said they were her family. She called them her brothers and sisters of the road." The kid looked up, eyes shining. "Are you one of those brothers?" That question hit Ghost like a gut punch. For the first time, the tough, weathered man in the black vest looked human, raw emotion showing through the cracks. He looked away, took a slow breath, and when he turned back, there was warmth in his eyes, and something old and aching, too. "Maybe I was," he said quietly. "A long time ago. Tell me, Tyler, does your mom ever talk about those days? Anyone named Connor? Or maybe Ghost?" Tyler frowned, thinking hard. "I don't think so. She doesn't really talk about it much. Grandma says Mom had a different life before she settled down. Grandma didn't like it, but Mom says those years made her who she is." Ghost nodded, almost to himself, like that confirmed something he already knew. He reached into his vest and pulled out his phone. "Tyler," he said gently, "I'm going to ask you something, and you can say no if you want. Would it be all right if I called your mom? I think she and I might have some catching up to do." Before the boy could answer, Mrs. Chen appeared beside the table, her face tight and protective. "I don't think that's appropriate," she said firmly, though her voice trembled. "Tyler, come back to our table." Ghost looked up at her, and for the first time since he walked in, smiled. The expression transformed him completely. Years seemed to fall away. "Mrs. Chen," he said softly, "I understand your concern. I know what we look like, and I know what people think when they see us. But I promise you, I mean no harm. If Lisa Martinez is who I think she is, then she and I, we go way back. We rode together. We were family." Her eyes flashed with old anger. "Family? You people were the reason my daughter almost threw her life away. 2 years running with your kind, she came home covered in tattoos, angry at the world. It took her years to fix the mess that life made of her." Ghost didn't argue. He just listened, his face calm, though something heavy settled in his eyes. "You're right to be angry," he said quietly. "The life we lived wasn't easy, and it wasn't meant for everyone. Lisa left because she wanted something better, and we respected that. But if she never told you, let me tell you now. Your daughter saved 3 lives while she rode with us." Mrs. Chen blinked, stunned. Ghost's voice grew steadier, proud even. She pulled a man out of a burning wreck when everyone else froze. She talked one of our brothers off the edge when he was ready to end it all. And she gave bone marrow to a member's little girl who would have died without it. Lisa Martinez wasn't lost, ma'am. She was one of the best souls I ever met. The restaurant stayed silent after that. Not a single fork moved, not even a whisper. Every person there could feel that something powerful had just shifted. The fear that once filled the room had turned into something closer to awe. Mrs. Chen stood frozen, her anger fading into confusion, her lips parting as she tried to take in what Ghost had said. The disbelief in her eyes softened, replaced by something that looked a lot like regret. Ghost reached into his vest and pulled out a small weathered business card. He placed it gently on the table, his hand steady. "This is my number," he said. "I'd really like to talk to Lisa, if she wants that. But I'll leave the choice to her." He turned to the boy beside him and smiled. Not the kind of grin people fake to be polite, but a genuine one that came from deep inside. "Tyler, it's been an honor meeting you. You're a brave kid." Tyler's face lit up. "Will you tell me stories about when my mom rode motorcycles?" Ghost chuckled softly. "If she says it's okay, I'll tell you everything you want to know." He looked at Mrs. Chen again, his tone gentle. "We'll finish our meal and be on our way, ma'am. We don't want to cause any more worry." Mrs. Chen hesitated, then picked up the business card with trembling fingers, staring at it like it might burn her. Finally, she nodded and took Tyler's hand, leading him back to their booth. The little boy turned and waved. Ghost raised his hand in return, a quiet smile still on his face. The bikers went back to eating, quiet now, but the whole place felt different. The tension was gone. In its place was a strange calm, even respect. The same people who'd looked terrified minutes ago now seemed to see those men for who they really were. Not monsters, not outlaws, but human beings with stories of their own. When the check came, Ghost left a $100 bill on the table, far more than their meal cost. Then he stood, the rest of the crew following his lead. Before leaving, he paused by Mrs. Chen's booth. "Tell Lisa," he said softly, "that Ghost says the phoenix rises from the ashes." Mrs. Chen looked up at him, startled. "She'll know what it means," he added, his voice low but certain. Then they walked out into the evening light, boots echoing against the floor, leather creaking as they stepped through the door and into the fading glow of sunset. But this time, their presence didn't feel threatening. It felt noble. That evening, when Lisa came home from her hospital shift, she looked like someone running on fumes. Hair pulled back, eyes tired, the kind of exhaustion only nurses and single moms understand. She dropped her bag by the door and barely had time to take off her shoes before her mother appeared in the hallway. There was something different in Mrs. Chen's face, a strange mix of shock, confusion, and something softer underneath. "Mom?" Lisa asked, instantly alert. "What's wrong?" Mrs. Chen didn't answer right away. She just held out a small business card between trembling fingers. "A man came into the restaurant today," she said quietly. "A man named ghost. Lisa froze. The color drained from her face as she slowly took the card. The moment her eyes landed on that name, it was like the air got sucked out of the room. Her hand went to her shoulder, pressing over the spot where, beneath her scrubs, the phoenix tattoo lay hidden. Her voice came out as a whisper. "Ghost was here? Connor was here?" Her mother nodded. "He said to tell you that the phoenix rises from the ashes." For a long time, Lisa just stood there staring at the card. Then she sank into a chair, her knees finally giving out. Tears welled in her eyes before she could stop them. "He told me things, Lisa," her mother said softly, still standing nearby. "Things you never told me about what you did back then." Lisa wiped at her cheeks, shaking her head. "I couldn't tell you, Mom. You would have never understood." Her voice broke a little. "Those people, they saved me when I was lost. I had nothing, no direction, no hope. They became my family." Mrs. Chen sat down across from her, her anger gone now, replaced by quiet sorrow. "I know you think I didn't understand," she said, "but you scared me, Lisa. You came home with fire in your eyes and anger in your heart. I thought they ruined you." Lisa looked down at the card, running her thumb over the embossed letters. "They didn't ruin me, Mom. They built me. I just couldn't stay. Ghost saw it before I did. He told me I deserved something different, a real life, a home, a family." She let out a shaky breath. "He's the one who made me promise to leave." Mrs. Chen's voice dropped. "Why?" "Because he knew if I stayed, the road would take everything from me eventually. He said I was meant for more than the ride." Lisa smiled faintly through her tears. He was right, but walking away was the hardest thing I ever did. Just then, small footsteps padded into the room. Tyler ran in, his face lighting up. "Mom, did Grandma tell you? I met your biker friend today. Ghost! He was awesome. He said you were family." Lisa's heart clenched. She pulled her son into her arms, holding him tight, as tears spilled freely now. "Yeah, baby," she whispered. "They were family. They still are." That night, after Tyler was sound asleep, Lisa sat alone at the kitchen table. The only light came from the lamp above her, casting a warm glow over the small space. Her phone rested in her hand, the business card beside it. She stared at the number for a long time, her heart pounding harder than it had in years. 15 years. That's how long it had been since she'd left the Desert Riders. 15 years since she'd traded leather and road dust for scrubs and a name tag. Since she'd swapped the roar of an engine for the steady hum of hospital hallways. She'd built a good life, safe, steady, respectable, the kind of life her mother could finally be proud of. But beneath it all, she still carried the mark of who she'd once been. The phoenix rising from chains, hidden under layers of fabric, but never forgotten. It was more than ink. It was memory. With a deep breath, she dialed the number. It rang twice before a voice answered. Older, rougher, but unmistakable. "This is Ghost." Lisa's throat tightened. "The phoenix remembers," she said softly, her voice trembling. "Even after the ashes have blown away." There was silence on the other end, just the sound of Ghost breathing. Then his voice broke through, raw and full of feeling. "Firebird," he said quietly. "I can't believe it's really you." That name, the one he'd given her all those years ago, hit her like a wave. They talked for hours that night, about the roads they'd taken, the ones they didn't, about brothers they'd lost and the lives they'd built since. Ghost told her about the club, how things had changed, who was gone, who still rode. Lisa shared stories about her work, her son, the little life she'd built out of the ashes of her old one. A week later, Ghost showed up for dinner with two of his brothers. Mrs. Chen was nervous, but the men's quiet manners and soft laughter soon melted the tension. Lisa laughed too, real, unguarded laughter that hadn't come out in years. Tyler listened wide-eyed as they told stories about a woman he'd never known. Brave, wild, and free. At one point, Ghost pulled a faded photo from his wallet. It showed Lisa, younger, wind in her hair, grinning from a Harley like she owned the whole world. "You were one of us," Ghost said with a small smile. "You always will be." Before leaving, he knelt beside Tyler, his tone gentle but firm. "Your mom's one of the bravest people I've ever met," he told him. "She lived with honor, and when the time came, she had the guts to walk away. Remember that, kid? Courage isn't just about fighting. Sometimes it's about knowing when to change." When the bikers rode off into the night, their taillights fading down the road, Lisa stood on the porch with Tyler and her mother. The rumble of the engines echoed softly until it disappeared. She felt something she hadn't in years. Peace. For so long, she'd tried to bury Firebird, to be only Nurse Chen, the responsible daughter, the single mom who kept everything together. But that night, standing there under the porch light, she realized she didn't have to choose. She was both, the woman who healed others and the one who once chased freedom across the open road. Mrs. Chen looked at her, eyes glistening. "I see now," she said quietly. "They really were your family." Lisa squeezed her mother's hand. "And so are you," she said. "I'm lucky. I have both." If this story reminds you that your past doesn't define you but shapes who you become, then maybe it's time to forgive that old version of yourself. Because sometimes the things we walk away from are the very things that make us strong enough to stand tall later on. A tattoo isn't just ink. It's a story, a reminder of who we were, who we are, and who we're still becoming